friends. Welcome to another Poetry Deep Dive today. I love Denis Martindale. He has written over 3,700 poems for the Poem Hunter website. Denis Martindale has written a new art appreciation poem, and the title is The Wildlife Artist Stephen Gayford. A Google search provides details of hundreds of the artist's paintings, prints, and canvases, along with high-quality images and video links. Another Google search provides details of the Poem Hunter poet Denis Martindale and hundreds of his Stephen Gayford poems. Here is what the brand new poem's message shares with us today.
And yeah, as I just literally shouted from the rooftops, I absolutely love Denis Martindale's work. You know, there is just something so incredibly special about finding a poet who doesn't just write for themselves, but actively champions and elevates the art of other people. When you find an author whose genuine passion just radiates through their verses, it is honestly impossible not to become a superfan. His dedication to capturing the pure essence of other creatives is profound, and the sheer scale of his poetic output is, well, it's mind-blowing.
3,700. No, that is definitely not a typo. Denis Martindale has authored over 3,700 poems on the Poem Hunter platform alone. Just pause and think about that for a second. Think about the incredible discipline, the relentless well of inspiration, and the sheer love for the craft that it actually takes to produce that much art. This isn't just a casual hobby for him. It's a monumental life's work. And it's exactly that level of relentless drive and dedication that brings us to the subject of his brand new poem.
Okay, let's dive into this. So who is the muse for this massive tribute? It's the celebrated UK wildlife artist Stephen Gayford. But to really, truly appreciate the poetry here, we kind of need to understand the painter himself first. Stephen Gayford is definitely not your casual weekend painter. Just as Martindale is a prolific force in poetry, Gayford is an absolute force on the canvas. So, to understand the incredible synergy between these two men, we have to look at what actually fuels Gayford's incredible body of work.
Gayford's whole mindset is perfectly summed up in this quote. He says, "Painting, for me, has never been a hobby. It's not a relaxing experience. I feel compelled, even driven to paint." Now, when a lot of us think about painting, we probably picture the late, great Bob Ross on his TV show, The Joy of Painting, where every single brushstroke is just a soothing, immediate rush of relaxation. But Gayford's reality, it's entirely different. For him, painting has been this consuming labor of love since he was just 12 years old. It's an absolute compulsion.
Because of that intense drive, Gayford has developed these really specific, highly meticulous techniques to bring his wildlife subjects to life. For instance, he actually completely dislikes front lighting, when the sun is directly behind the observer. Instead, he strongly prefers backlight, sidelight, or diffused light. But what I find absolutely fascinating is his love for dust and mist. He actively seeks out cloudy or dusty settings because, in his own words, it portrays the volume of air between the objects. He isn't just painting an animal, he is painting the very atmosphere that the animal breathes. How cool is that?
Now, to capture that kind of atmospheric magic, you obviously need a pretty dynamic workspace. And that brings us to his literal setup: mirrors and multiple canvases. Let's zoom in and look a bit closer at the actual steps of his creative process.
So his highly methodical workflow breaks down kind of like this. Step 1, he kicks things off with up to a dozen small A5 pencil sketches, just trying to nail down that perfect composition. Then step 2, and this is where it gets a little frantic, he actually works on anywhere between 2 and 10 paintings at the exact same time. Step 3, he keeps a large mirror right behind him while he paints. By viewing his work in reverse in the reflection, any little flaws in the composition become instantly obvious to him. And finally, step 4. As a painting starts to stray from its original inspiration, he just completely abandons it temporarily to start another one, only returning to the first when he has totally fresh eyes.
So the big question is, how on earth do you take that intensely literal, methodical, and honestly almost chaotic artistic process and turn it into beautiful verse? Well, that is exactly the mirroring arc we are exploring today. This is right where Denis Martindale steps in. Martindale takes Gayford's literal tools, the pencil sketches, the big mirrors, the multiple canvases, and translates them all into a romanticized, enduring tribute. Let's see exactly how the poet interprets the painter's reality on the canvas. And this brilliantly illustrates the connection. Just look at the comparison here. Gayford talks about his practical reality, saying, "When painting, I have a large mirror behind me. I can then easily correct it." Simple, right? But then look at how Martindale elevates this literal tool in his poem. A mirror helps when viewing art, transforming it once more, so I can focus on each part with insights to explore. The angles change to catch the light, with details well portrayed. Martindale takes a highly practical studio tool used for spotting errors and turns it into this mystical instrument for capturing unfading beauty.
We can see that exact same poetic translation happening with the multiple canvases. I mean, Gayford just bluntly states, I work on between 2 and 10 at once. It's a statement of frantic, driven production. But Martindale softens it, right? He romanticizes that intense drive, writing, sometimes I paint a group of frames, not one and one alone. And when they're done, I give them names. That's how each one gets known. He captures the sprawling, massive nature of Gayford's workflow, but he frames it as a nurturing process, basically bringing a whole family of masterpieces to life at the exact same time.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly it captures the fleeting nature of the artist's muse. Gayford actually admits that if he works way too long on one single piece, it kind of loses its initial simplicity. He literally has to walk away and come back later with a new inspiration. Martindale echoes this exact necessity right in his verse. New inspiration proves a treat before the paint goes dry, and when a painting's called complete, I switch to frames nearby. The poem perfectly mirrors Gayford's relentless need to chase the muse around the studio before the moment and the paint completely dries up.
So, as we talked about a little earlier, Stephen Gayford's joy in painting isn't that immediate, super relaxing thrill you might see on a Saturday morning TV show. So, where exactly does the joy come from? Well, it comes over time. Specifically, it comes in the form of professional prints. The true, deep satisfaction arrives when these meticulously crafted paintings are transformed into high-quality prints and canvases, and they're sold to thousands, even millions of art buyers all around the world, spreading happiness for literally generations to come. It's a delayed but massive gratification. And that massive sense of delayed gratification is just completely immortalized in the concluding stanza of this brand new poem, which is dated June 21st, 2026. Martindale writes this: perhaps 1,000 prints get sold, or 50, sometimes less, in fancy frames that shine like gold, enhancing happiness. 1,000 here, 1,000 there, these are my legacy. Creating art beyond compare as modern tapestry. It is just a spectacular meta-narrative. The artist creates the legacy in paint, and the poet brilliantly secures that exact legacy in verse.
You know, both Denis Martindale, with his absolutely staggering 3,700 poems, and Stephen Gayford, with his countless, beautiful prints, have built these monumental bodies of work fueled by a really pure, undeniable drive. They didn't just dabble in this stuff, they totally dedicated their lives to their craft. So as we wrap up this explainer, looking at these two masters of the respective mediums, I really want to leave you with a question to ponder today. When you look at the passions that drive you, what will your creative legacy look like? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep exploring, and as always, keep creating.